Bank Indonesia memperkirakan tahun ini inflasi bisa berada di atas 4%. Ini berarti melewati target yang ditetapkan di APBN, yaitu inflasi berada di kisaran 2 hingga 4%.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First, we will talk about introduction of Indonesia. Republic of Indonesia is a country in Southeast Asia and Oceania between Indian and Pacific Oceans. Why we choose Indonesia? Because Indonesia is known as the largest economy in Southeast Asia and in the 9th ranking of countries with higher inflation rates. Population of Indonesia expands to 3.5% of the world population. Indonesia has received income reached 2,626.5 trillion rupiah in 2022.
Now it is my turn to explain about theory of inflation. Basically, inflation is defined as an increase in the aggregate or average price level of goods and services in an economy that is sustained and persistent. It is a case of too much money chasing too few products. The result of this inflation is there is an inverse relationship between inflation and the purchasing power of money. When inflation is strong, the purchasing power of money falls, and vice versa. There are three causes of inflation which can have an impact on Indonesia's economy. The first cause is known as demand pull inflation. Demand pull inflation outlines how increased demand for products and services can cause prices to rise. People will often pay more for something that is in scarce supply. It happens when the demand for goods or services exceeds the capacity of production. For example, manufacturers of chocolate intend to cut off chocolate production. However, the demand increased as well as the supply decreased. Therefore, manufacturers will charge more money for their chocolate, and this can lead to consumers paying more money. The second cause of inflation is cost-push inflation. This inflation rises from a decrease in aggregate supply. This is because the existence of higher pricing for goods and services as a result of rising manufacturing costs. For instance, an increase in inputs such as cost of raw materials or labors will impact higher manufacturing costs. Finally, built-in inflation. It is where the higher wages will be paid in order to offset the increased cost of living as prices of goods and services rise. It occurs when prices of goods are going high. Employees expect their salaries will increase too for a living stable. In other words, built-in inflation can be said is a double-edged sword. As well as demand pull inflation and cost push inflation occur, employees may begin to request raises from their employers.
Next is analysis trends. Based on graph shows on inflation rates for Indonesia, it shows an irregular trend from year 2013 until 2022 throughout these 10 years. In year 2013 until 2015, we recorded that the highest rate throughout these 10-year period times. Since 2015, the trend showing constant. Right after year 2015, decreasing and become increased again in 2017. After on 2017 until 2021, the trend massively dropped. Then in 2022, trend suddenly increased rapidly.
Next, the issue on analysis of inflation in country of Indonesia. And imported inflation became the main issue in the Indonesia inflation problem. Internally, production costs will be higher due to rising import prices of fuels and commodities, and it will cause imported inflation to occur. Exchange rate depreciation might also cause imported inflation. From the statement by Mr. Faisal, higher prices of cooking oil were prompted by increases of worldwide palm oil prices globally since the end of last year. In addition, the inflation rate is as high now as the previous 7 years. These all factors did not exist. Local manufacturers have no options besides raising the prices. Other than that, the weakened rupiah also contributes to imported inflation, so it is geared towards imported inflation. Second issue is an inflation caused by low commodity supply amid high demand. As stated by Mr. Muhammad Faisal, Executive Director of Research Tank Center of Reform on Economics Core Indonesia, the increased inflation rate was caused by a low commodity supply amid high demand. He highlighted that the worldwide crisis has impacted the supply networks of several goods. Domestically, there were production problems such as seasonal failures of crops in chives and shallots. Because of the high total demand in 2019, where COVID-19 happens, limits have been relaxed this year. As a result, there was higher mobility of the people as the demand for various goods and services were high. Last but not least, the effect of Ukraine war. This issue is certainly to happen, according to Mr. Faisal, because the war interrupted supply chains has caused global oil prices to rise. Fertilizer imports from Russia have been affected, driving up the prices of several food goods in the Southeast Asian country. Its existence creates complex food inflation.
Next, how government solving the problem of inflation. Saying through monetary policy, the Bank of Indonesia is selling off treasury bills to the public. As a result, it can reducing in purchasing activities to the public and money supply. It will set higher oil price, resulting higher inflation rates. In early 2015, global oil price continued to decline, so Indonesia was able to further cut fuel subsidy spending. The President of Indonesia also introduced a new price formula for subsidies fuel price based on international oil price. Last, the Central Bank of Indonesia persuaded commercial banks to increase their interest rate on deposit from the public. As a result, higher interest rates will attract and encourage more people to saving. Fiscal policy, government decrease in their spending. Minister of Finance of Indonesia, Sri Mulyani Indrawati, stated that Indonesia's spending still rise due to fuel subsidies and infrastructure projects. As a result, she reiterated a commitment to optimize the fund to anticipate financing needs. Last but not least, the Directorate of General of Taxes (GDT) intends to raise present tax ratio to 15% aligned with global average. Indonesia's current tax is still below the global average of 13.5% as per DGT. According to Fajri Akbar, the research manager at Center of Indonesia Taxation Analysis, CITA, they tried to developing several strategies to increase the tax ratio. On the legal, Indonesia DGT will make fair law enforcement efforts regarding taxation system.
Next, I will talk about unemployment in Indonesia. Unemployment refers to the situation in which people are actively seeking for employment but are unable to find work. In general speaking, the more unemployed individuals, the less productive a nation could be. There are four types of unemployment, which are structural unemployment, frictional unemployment, cyclical unemployment, and seasonal unemployment. We go to the first one, structural unemployment. In Indonesia, unemployment that is often shown from year to year is structural unemployment. This type of unemployment is due to the skills and abilities possessed by individuals being limited or not adequate with existing job opportunities and technologies. In order to keep in track with the flow of changes, it usually requires more time than decades to reverse this effect. Secondly, frictional unemployment. It is also a major problem in Indonesia. This refers to the temporary period that occurs when individuals transitioning between jobs or entering the workforce for the first time. To illustrate this circumstance, when Movement Control Order MCO was enforced in early 2020, a lot of the employment sector had to shut down their operation due to the spread of COVID-19. Surprisingly, 33.34 million freelance workers were recorded in 2023, which is 26% higher from the labor force in 2019. Thirdly, cyclical unemployment. Indonesia, known as a country with a variety of businesses, is also confronted with cyclical unemployment. Along with the recession or downturn in the economy, businesses may experience the decrease of demand for goods and services, which majorly causes insolvency or job losses. Cyclical unemployment will start to decrease when the firm or business begins hiring individuals to work with them during expansion of the economy. Lastly, seasonal unemployment. Indonesia, being a country with diverse economic activities, also experiences seasonal unemployment in certain sectors. For instance, in the agriculture sector, which involves harvesting and planting, might lead to short-term unemployment. Problems like infertile land caused by non-stop planting activity will slow down the process of planting, which results in unemployment in great numbers of workers. Increased import of domestic products like rice and wheat is compulsory to fulfill local consumers' demand.
We move to the unemployment rate in Indonesia. In 2013, Indonesia recorded a 4.35% unemployment rate, which in the same slowed economic growth in 2 past consecutive years. However, in 2014, this rate dropped to 4.05% due to the decrease of vulnerable and informal employment like contractors and street vendors, while there is an increase of regular employees such as manufacturers and agricultural workers. In 2015, Indonesia reached the highest unemployment rate in those 10 years. The unemployment rate dropped significantly to 3.8%, which shows high opportunity of employment, which have reduced the unemployment rate for both 2 consecutive years, which are 2016 and 2017. Nevertheless, this rate continues to rise to 4.4% in 2018 and then descend to 3.6% in 2019. In 2020, the rate jumps back to 4.22%, and along with the 2 next consecutive years, which are 2021 and 2022, this rate falls slowly and indicates that the economy has become more stable with the introduction of the vaccination for treating the COVID-19 viruses. Issues on unemployment rate in Indonesia. Starting from 2013, there were 23.941 large-scale industry companies operating in Indonesia. This accommodation seems to succeed in reducing the unemployment rate significantly, as it dropped 0.3% out of the rate in 2014. However, the number of young unemployed individual and jobless graduates is continuing to increase. Large competition among experienced workers and fresh graduates, resulting in high numbers of people becoming unemployed. In fact, Indonesia Labour Organization also highlighted that over 50% of the unemployed were new graduates. In 2015, the youth unemployment rate was even higher than the national average, indicating that there were specific challenges for this specific group of individuals. The economy is drastically slower than ever, as 843,000 people decide to quit or voluntarily end their job to search for a new job. These are people who had never been worked before beginning their job search. Both 2016 and 2017 showed improvement in declining unemployment. BPS Chairman Suharyanto attributed the decline to the rising number of females, expanding the size of workers in the informal sector, and the e-commerce boom. Indonesia's former seasonal workers shift to such informal jobs like agriculture and plantation. Meanwhile, the housewife now begins to join the workforce in trading and import companies. About 1.53 million new unemployment opportunities were created and succeeded to add some 500,000 new employees in the transportation sector. President Widodo cut the subsidy mainly on fuel and electricity to focus on infrastructure and social development in 2018. This decision was made due to certain places like Sulawesi Island and Makassar City being hit by the earthquake and tsunami in early September 2018. 170,000 workers had to be displaced, and 1.3 billion USD was recorded as economic losses. As in 2019, Indonesia's economy was steadily growing economically amid unusually damaging natural disasters. According to the World Bank June 2019 Indonesia Economic Quarterly release in 1st July 2019, rate as at 2021 indicates that Indonesian economy continued to recover as the vaccination was introduced to treat the COVID-19 viruses. Tax was reformed to prioritize business, enabling environment for micro, small and medium enterprise (MSMEs), creating vacancy jobs for unemployed individuals. in 2022, this rate continued to fall as the post-COVID-19 reopening the economy and commodity price rises. Statistic Indonesia BPS recorded that 33.34 million Indonesians are part-time workers or freelancers of August 2020. The figure was up by 4.32 million people or 26% year-to-date. Solution on how to control the unemployment in Indonesia. So one of the ways on how to deal with this kind of unemployment is by implement the direct control policy. Direct control policy can also be defined as a set of government interventions and regulation in order to influence the aspect of society and current economics. So this policy will protect the interests of people by looking at the current economic conditions. For instance, the government dropped the selling price of product to help food vendors to survive during inflation. Thus, here are some ways on how the Indonesian should implement the direct control policy in order to deal with this kind of unemployment. So the first one is by providing training and skill development seminar. Proper training and skill development initiative connect job seekers with employers who have job openings. In general, majority of Indonesian people who suffered from poverty, commonly quit from school, had limited themselves in building good career. This seminar provides assistance in building skills that align with the needs of industry, matching individual capabilities and qualification with available job opportunity. Second one, public sector employment. Job opportunities can be created by government by increasing the number of the local administrations, government agencies, and the public institutions. By also giving information regarding to the benefits of working as a public servant, more people will be interested and attracted in searching jobs in public sector, thus decrease the number of unemployed individuals. The third one, which is the last, unemployment benefits. Initiative that encourage unemployed individuals who are actively seeking for employment. These initiatives are to provide temporary support and safety for individuals during their job search.